Everyone says Amazon killed Bed Bath & Beyond. The timeline doesn't support it. The company was profitable well into the Amazon era. Its real problem started in 2004, years before Amazon dominated retail, when the board made a decision that would quietly destroy the business over the next 2 decades. It wasn't a crisis. It wasn't a scandal. It was a spreadsheet. And the people making the decision were being paid bonuses to keep making it, right up until the moment there was nothing left. In 1971, Warren Eisenberg and Leonard Feinstein opened a single linen store in Springfield, New Jersey. The concept was deceptively simple. Stock more products than any competitor, stack them floor to ceiling, and make customers feel like they were walking into abundance. It worked. The stores expanded. By 2012, Bed Bath & Beyond operated over 1,500 locations across North America and generated $11.3 billion in annual revenue. It was one of the most consistent retail success stories in American history. A company that had never needed to borrow, never overpromised, never stumbled. What made the stores work wasn't just selection. It was the coupon. The famous blue and white 20% off mailer arrived in millions of American mailboxes and became one of the most recognized pieces of direct mail in retail history. Customers collected them obsessively, stored them in kitchen drawers, handed them to cashiers years after the official expiration date, and Bed Bath & Beyond accepted them anyway. Analysts estimated the coupons drove roughly 80% of all customer transactions. The coupon wasn't a promotion. It was the relationship. And the day someone decided to end it, the relationship ended too. Starting in 2004, the board began systematically returning cash to shareholders through stock buybacks. At first, it seemed like sound financial management. The stores were profitable, growth was steady, and excess cash had to go somewhere. But the buybacks didn't stop when growth slowed. They continued through the rise of Amazon. They continued as e-commerce began eating into store traffic. By 2018, Bed Bath & Beyond had spent $11.8 billion buying its own shares and carried $1.5 billion in net debt. The stores that were supposed to fund those buybacks had received almost no capital investment. The roof was leaking while the board was celebrating the stock price. By 2019, Bed Bath & Beyond was visibly struggling. Its stock had lost more than 80% of its value from its highs. Into this moment stepped Ryan Cohen, then running RC Ventures, a small investment fund, before his GameStop notoriety, who took a stake in the company and pushed management hard. Cut costs aggressively, shrink the store footprint, return more capital to shareholders. It was the same playbook that had already spent $11 billion without fixing anything. The board listened anyway, because the people demanding more buybacks were the same investors who would profit from them. In November 2019, Bed Bath & Beyond hired Mark Tritton as CEO. He had come from Target, where he'd helped develop private label product lines, and the board believed he could do the same here. What Tritton did first was eliminate the 20% off coupons. The mechanism that drove 80% of customer transactions, the single most beloved aspect of the brand, the reason millions of people walked through the doors, gone. His second move was to phase out national brands from the shelves and replace them with own brand alternatives that customers had never heard of. Both decisions were designed to improve margins. Both decisions destroyed the reason customers came at all. The strategy failed within months. Customers who arrived looking for the national brands they trusted found unfamiliar products at prices that didn't feel like deals, without a coupon to soften them. Many walked out and went to Amazon instead, where the same brand name products they'd always bought were available the next day. Same-store sales collapsed. The private label shelves sat unsold. And the company that had entered 2020 with a transformation plan entered COVID with a failing transformation plan, the pandemic temporarily disguising the damage as a supply chain problem rather than a strategic one. By mid-2022, Bed Bath & Beyond stock had fallen to around $5. The company had burned through cash, missed earnings targets repeatedly, and was running out of time. Into this moment walked Ryan Cohen again. In August 2022, RC Ventures revealed through an SEC filing that it had accumulated an 11.8% stake in Bed Bath & Beyond. Cohen had been the catalyst for the GameStop frenzy a year earlier, and the Reddit retail trading community recognized the signal immediately. Within days, shares had surged from around $5 to over $30, a move of more than 500% driven entirely by social media momentum and the power of his name. On August 16th and 17th, 2022, Ryan Cohen sold his entire position. Approximately 9.45 million shares plus call options, liquidated at or near the peak price, generating an estimated $60 to $68 million in profit. When his sales became public, the stock collapsed 40% in a single day. The ordinary retail investors who had followed Cohen into the trade, who had bought based on his disclosed stake and the assumption he was committed, watched billions in combined paper wealth evaporate in hours. The SEC opened an investigation into the trades. Cohen kept the money. 2 weeks later, the crisis took a human toll that no financial analysis could have predicted. On September 2, 2022, Gustavo Arnold, Bed Bath & Beyond's chief financial officer, died by suicide at his Manhattan apartment building. He was 52. Arnold had been named days earlier in a class action lawsuit alleging that he and Ryan Cohen had artificially inflated the stock before Cohen's exit, a pump-and-dump scheme. The lawsuit had not been adjudicated. No criminal charges were ever filed. But for Arnold, the weight of the public allegation, the collapse around him, and whatever he carried privately had become unsurvivable. The company that had lost its CFO, its customer base, and its stock price to a meme frenzy was now in freefall. Between July 2022 and April 2023, Bed Bath & Beyond burned through approximately $1 billion in cash trying to survive. It closed stores in waves. It missed payments to suppliers who had trusted it for decades. It attempted emergency financing rounds that produced small amounts of capital at catastrophic dilution. Each month, the company bought itself a few more weeks. Each month, the math grew worse. The question was no longer whether it would file for bankruptcy, only when. On April 23, 2023, Bed Bath & Beyond filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the District of New Jersey. The filing listed $5.2 billion in total liabilities and approximately 360 remaining stores. Among those liabilities was over $1.2 billion owed to vendors, the manufacturers and small businesses who had delivered goods to Bed Bath & Beyond stores on credit, trusting that a company of this size and history would pay its bills. Many of them would receive cents on the dollar. Some would receive nothing. In June 2023, the intellectual property, the brand name, and the website were sold at bankruptcy auction. The winning bidder was Overstock.com, an online liquidation retailer, for $21.5 million. To put that in context, at its peak, Bed Bath & Beyond had been valued at over $15 billion. The name that had represented a specific American shopping experience for 50 years, the coupons, the stacked shelves, the familiar blue and white logo, sold for less than some Manhattan apartments. Overstock promptly renamed itself Bed Bath & Beyond and continued selling furniture online to people who mostly had no idea what had happened. The easy explanation is Amazon. But Bed Bath & Beyond had competed with Amazon for 15 years and remained profitable. The company that filed for bankruptcy in 2023 wasn't killed by competition. It was killed by choices. The board that authorized $11.8 billion in buybacks instead of store investment. The activist investor who pushed for more of the same. The CEO who eliminated the coupon program, stripped out the national brands customers trusted, and replaced them with products nobody wanted. Each decision made the company weaker. Each decision made the next decision harder. The failure was entirely, comprehensively self-inflicted. Stock buybacks are legal, common, and in the right circumstances, rational. What they are not is a substitute for running a business. When Bed Bath & Beyond spent nearly $12 billion buying its own shares rather than investing in stores, technology, or customer experience, it was extracting value from the business without creating any. The executives who authorized those buybacks were compensated based on earnings per share, which buybacks inflate mechanically. They had every personal incentive to continue. And continue they did until there was nothing left to extract. The company had not been mismanaged by accident. It had been optimized for the wrong goal. Rise and Ruin covers the untold stories behind the biggest corporate collapses in history, the decisions, the frauds, and the moments no one saw coming. Subscribe and hit the bell. Every story we tell is someone else's warning.